Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Get Real Estate with Liz and Marie. I'm Liz.
And I'm Marie.
And we're back. Last week there was a small hiccup, but it just gave more for the fun numbers this week.
Oh,
Yay!
yes. The numbers are incredible this week. So I am a little short on time, so I'm just going to jump right in. So these numbers are actually from 2 weeks ago in the change, but we only have active across all of Maricopa County 4,878 listings.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I had to move my screen so I can see your reaction to that one.
I know, it's totally crazy. And yesterday I had a meeting with, a potential buyer of ours or seller, and I was trying to explain this to them. I mean, it's just the numbers are insane.
Yeah,
Right now.
it's so crazy. So I don't know, what do we have, like 2 weeks worth of inventory or something? It's just nuts.
Yeah, but again, it goes back to my house will be on the market.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a reduction of 657 listings across the county. Phoenix went down 116 listings. It's only down to 858 in Phoenix. Scottsdale has 442 active listings. Tempe has 78, which is crazy to me. When it went below 100, I thought it was crazy. But, I mean, now we're just keep dwindling over there. Chandler's got 135 and Mesa has 380. It's just,
I don't know if you're getting asked this a lot, but I'm getting asked it a lot. Like, what's happening with the market when those numbers are dropping? And you and I have gone over this in the weeks. Some buyers got kind of exhausted, like they were kicking tires. Like, what can I do? And then they see this and they're like, forget it. So it's kind of taken those kind of buyers out of the market a little bit, but it still makes it hard. And for serious people that have to move, moving in, somewhere, it's hard to go find something then.
I know. Well, and I mean, the pricing, you would think, okay, inventory keeps coming down, pricing is going to keep soaring.
Yes.
I mean, it hasn't gone that crazy overall in the county. It's gone up about 10 grand. So we're at a median list price of 500,000, which if I think about a couple of years ago, was 350,000 and now it's 500,000. But that's, again, a couple of years. But Scottsdale just went up another 200,000 median in Scottsdale. And that has just been going up and up and up, which I think is absolutely bonkers. But when we were getting close to the million, I thought it was crazy. And now we're at 1.5.
I know. And in a minute, when we talk about our next article, I want to come back to that number. So remember that 1.5 million median price.
Yes, I know. That's crazy. And then rentals, we've seen pretty steady rental prices. I feel like they're starting to just go up just a little bit as far as pricing, but not, nothing crazy in the movement. And we've gone up 87 listings. So we have 3,678 active rentals across Maricopa County.
Yeah.
So between that and the houses, I mean, we still don't have very much inventory around. So it's just kind of crazy. But like you said, related to these home prices, what's our first article about, Liz?
Well, and so, okay. So these are, two, good ones, but 5 tips for first-time home buyers. Okay. And so, I have kids in that age group. I have nieces and nephews kind of in that age group, and they've experienced a little bit of these, these 5 tips. I found a couple things off in the article, not off, but made me go, And, but again, it's maybe that generation, but it's always check your credit, no matter who's buying a house, whether it's your first house or your 10th house, your credit has to be in line. I mean, that's just the bottom line. That's the benchmark for a bank or a lending institution to be able to lend you money. So that's a given. Everybody should know that. The next one being home buyers' confidence. It's like, when you see numbers like that and you're constantly out looking for something and being outbid or missing this or missing that, I think your confidence kind of dwindles a little bit, but you just have to keep at it and also you might have to settle on a couple things that you want, but don't settle on a house just to get something if it's not truly what you want. It will come along. So just have that confidence in what you're looking for and the areas and stuff, which will also come back up again. This is the one I thought that was weird about commissions. that the buyers didn't realize. Okay, so I think in the article, I don't like in the article the way they say it, because it says that after conducting a survey, they found that millennials weren't sure if they paid commission when buying a home. The answer is usually not, but closing costs are typical. And it threw me off because I'm like, yeah, they pay, but it's not them. It's the seller.
Correct.
It's technically splitting the commission. So that was what kind of caught me off. But they have to realize that that is still part. You can't, the realtor isn't free. That is helping you find the home.
Right. And I think, what's interesting, one of the properties that I sold recently, we talked about, it was an open door backed offer, right? So a guy who was selling a property with open door also had open door helping him buy his next property. So if the timelines and all this kind of things didn't work out, open door would pay cash for the property, which ultimately happened. And they basically did a double close, sold that property to him, and he did actually pay extra commission to Open Door for that option of being able to. And I was able to see that on the closing statement. So there was additional money that was taken from the buyer, not the seller, which, like you said, it's typically the seller paying all the commissions. But in this case, there was some commissions from the buyer to Open Door. So anyway, just thought that was interesting.
No, it's a very interesting point, but it's still there. It's still part of it. You can negotiate it, but a commission is still paid to realtors.
Well, and there are just the closing costs associated with it as well, right? So I think some first-time home buyers are like, all right, I'm buying a $400,000 house. I saved up a 10% down payment of $40,000 and have zero to cover their closing costs. And they don't realize that there's other fees and closing costs that go into it aside from just the down payment.
Appraisals, inspection fees. So that topic probably could have been expanded a little bit to not just commissions, but that. And so with that, along with work with an experienced real estate agent, and how huge is that? I mean, real estate agents have to be licensed for a reason. And, there's newbies and there's seasoned, and that's okay. Everybody had to start out new, but just make sure your real estate agent is understanding what you're looking for, what they have to offer you, and they're treating you the best way that they can to fulfill, that wish list and everything else. So, it can be your best friend's mom who does it sometimes, but just know what you're going to get. If it's not what they do regularly,
especially there's sometimes those odd things that come up in a property, right? Like a septic, unpermitted addition. How do I handle this? And all of a sudden, if you're working with someone who's new, it could be a nightmare. So,
well, and like that, I mean, we both know very experienced realtors. You have one that has worked with you that has saved you on some stuff. Last year with mine, when I had that deal go south because the appraisal didn't come in right, and the buyer was going to sue me, and the way the contracts were written up and the verbiage and everything, it got a little hairy out there. And so fortunately the brokers stepped in and got it straightened out, but it was scary. Okay. So the next one is mortgage miss. That, if you are getting a conventional loan, if you can't get 20% down, then you are, subject to, mortgage insurance.
Yeah, the PMI, the private mortgage insurance.
Private mortgage insurance. I was forgetting that private. You know how I feel about insurance. We won't go into that. This is just another way for people to make money. It's all that it is. And what PMI does is can add a big chunk to your monthly mortgage payment until you have gotten over this certain limit, and then you have to refi and everything else. So that can be, again, back to what you think your mortgage is going to be and you can afford. And then all of a sudden there's $200 or $300 a month added on to there for, this insurance again, which used to not be a thing. So, again, I'm not sure what purpose it serves, but it's just another way for somebody to make money.
Well, I do know what purpose it serves, but I understand what your point of view is.
I know, I do too, but it's still just another way. Okay, so now we got to keep moving. So the next one was, because we do short-term rentals, you have short-term rentals. This article was interesting to me. Scottsdale among 25 best places to buy a vacation rental in 2022. Let's go back up to what we said a few minutes ago. Is 1.5 million medium price point the best to buy a vacation rental? So, in looking at this list, I know they're all very desirable places to go, but there's a couple I mean, there's more than a couple, but just in our experience, living in Scottsdale, and then, you know, having lived in Vail and my sister living in Vail, there's two things that are a little bit of grain. Take the article with a grain of salt. Scottsdale's a great place to visit, a great place to go have a vacation rental. But right now, it's not that you can't buy one there, but there's a lot in Scottsdale. So you kind of got to consider that. And you and I were together this weekend. I heard people talking that Scottsdale's starting to rumble a little bit about not being happy with short-term rentals there, and there could be some laws changing. Yeah. So I would take that into consideration.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they have made them more stringent than other cities like Phoenix and Chandler or whatever, where Scottsdale, you know, does limit you to a 6 adult per unit. So, you know, if you have a 2-bedroom condo, that might not be a big deal. If you have a 5-bedroom house and you want a few families in there, you know, it makes it a lot more difficult too. So they are being more stringent. But I'm so interested in some of these places. Like, I have no idea where Joshua Tree, California is, but that's
okay. So that's not far from here. So you know what's funny about that? Temecula, Joshua Tree, Coachella, Palm Springs, they're all kind of in that same general area, especially Palm Springs and Coachella Valley are all kind of together. So some of them, you know, they're separating it out a little bit because on this, the one in Temecula, it had a little asterisk with it. In the city of Temecula, you are not allowed to have an Airbnb. So they're talking about the vineyards, the wineries, and everything in some of those smaller areas outside of there. So it is, you know, the one I wasn't sure of was, I don't know. Hudson Valley. That's in New York. It was up north. I don't know if you're familiar with that being from there, but that was a good place. So the thing that caught my eye when I saw Vail, Colorado, I was like, oh, you know, my sister lives there. I vacation up there a couple times a year. Interesting. And then I go to look at it and I was like, I was just talking to her on the phone because I was like, did you know that the median house price to get a vacation rental in Vail, Colorado is $375,000? I thought she was going to run off the road. She's like, you can't even buy a garage for $375,000 here. Who got that information? 3.75 million maybe. But
all right, so they were a little bit off on some of the information.
Yeah, I mean, but it's still, but you know, looking at it though, it's the destinations too. I mean, those are all very sought after destinations.
And that's what I was just going to say. Just looking at this list, you know, obviously you just mentioned Vail, Telluride, Breckenridge. These are all places my husband and his friends would go on their ski trips, right? Park City, Utah, Lake Tahoe, California. I mean, I lived in Tahoe, so I can tell you that's a great, great place.
Well, what about our friend? Did you hear Rochelle's story this weekend that her husband had an Airbnb in one of these? And they sold it and they didn't have a place to stay anymore.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So that was good. So just, you know, I got to wrap it up here. So just take everything with a grain of salt, but they're also great, you know, places to vacation. Just check into it. If you're interested in a short-term rental, make sure you check all the laws and the rules and what's happening.
Oh, definitely.
Okay. So this is not necessarily feel good. I thought it interesting. It is, you know, a good story, but there's a new development that's going to be built in Tempe from a company called Cul-de-sac. I don't know if that's going to be the name of the area, but there's no cars allowed in where they're building. And I don't even think you're allowed to own a car. You could own a car, but there's going to be no parking provided. Although the rendering and the picture showed cars, which kind of made me laugh. But there's going to be no cars. So if you own a car, you would have to pay to park it somewhere else in a storage unit, but there's no place to put a car here. So you're getting
this is a walkable community in Tempe that they are proposing.
And that they'll give lifts, discounts on lift rides and on the Valley light rail going through there and stuff.
Wow.
But you can't, you know, have a car in there. So I thought that was kind of cool. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
it's going to be a way. You know, there's a guy that runs in our investor network. The man doesn't own a car and he doesn't have a driver. He lifts and Ubers every single any place that he goes. So, you know, he lives in California and that's just his thing. So it's coming, you know. So I just thought that was something to watch. You know, we'll definitely watch and see what's happening with it. So I thought that was cool. And then the last thing is we're going to keep this in here at least throughout the spring, I think. It just goes back to what we talked about 2 weeks ago, is all these festivals. So I took the top one off. That was the marathon last weekend. Now this is Barrett Jackson week here in North Scottsdale. And so it's all about the cars and the shows and the, you know, hoopla happening over there. So just want to push that out. So
I know my husband's out of town. I think I'm going to take the McLaren on him tonight. What? Fancy.
There you go. And yeah, you're going to be headed up there, and you're going to be right in that where all the car shows are happening, because they're all happening right there where you're going to pass through at Westworld and
in North Scottsdale. So
I know. So anyway, I know you got to go. So peace and love to everybody. We'll be back next week.
Peace and love. Thank you for tuning in. Let us know how much you love us. Let us know what other information you want to see on our weekly market updates. And check us out at lizandmarie.com.
Yeah. All right. See you soon.
Right. Bye.